Hello, and welcome to the Hypno Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway podcast. That's right. Your host and tour guide is Scott Prevett, a healer, hypnotist, and a magician. And your bus driver is Jason Gobelli, also a hypnotist, an entrepreneur, and a spiritual guide. Disclaimer, neither Jason, Scott, or any of our guests here today are licensed professional psychologists or psychiatrists. So please don't make any changes to any medication or treatments that you are currently on based on the conversation that you hear here today. Just hop on the bus and enjoy the ride. Trip with us on the Inner Revelation bus. That's right.
Hi, I'm Jason. Welcome back to the Hypno Travelers on the Magical Psyche Highway. We are glad to be here today, and we are excited because we got a great guest, don't we, Scott?
Heck yeah, you guys, all the way from the center of the country.
That's right. That's right. From Missouri, we got the great Matt Dickson. Matt, how are you?
Hey guys, I'm good. How are you?
Welcome, welcome.
Wonderful. We're doing great. We're doing great, and we're looking forward to going down your highway. So, shall we get
thanks
started?
for having me.
Thank you. Shall we get started?
Yeah, you
Great.
betcha.
So, here we go. Matt, who are you, and what do you do?
I am Matt Dickson. I'm a hypnotherapist and yoga teacher in the St. Louis area, specifically St. Charles. And I help people solve their subconscious problems. So the way that's how I look at hypnosis. It's something that helps a person solve the thing that they already know how to solve, but they're not solving it. They're not doing it, and they don't know why they're not doing it. And that's what I consider a subconscious problem.
So, do you help discover the reasons why they're not getting to where they need to be?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes that's what a person believes that they need, and other times I like to always frame it with I want to keep them in their subconscious, so I'll frame it as you may not know exactly when the problem has solved itself or when it's gone, but you will maybe just feel it in your body, and you'll just know. And you may not be able to consciously say specifically what happened, but you'll just know it's happened, that type of thing. So I want to leave it open for both.
Nice. Well, we've interviewed a lot of hypnotists on here. So, Matt, tell us about you. What's your kind of unique approach on this thing?
Well, I if you're asking me like what my favorite sort of I guess modality is, I suppose it would be like conversational hypnosis. I like to work things out, conversationally, ideally. But I will take the first session and find out, what their path is to their subconscious. So if a person has been hypnotized before and they've had great success with, the traditional approach, the long induction, the swinging pocket watch, so to speak, with the direct suggestion. So if they say something like, oh, that was in this person's office, and, he put on some music and talked to me about a spiral staircase and had me stare at a swirly thing until my eyes went to sleep. And then he just told me not to smoke anymore, or something like that. If they feel good about that, that's kind of the direction I will go. But if they've never experienced hypnosis, then I'll do what I call them trancy tests or trancy games to see, how trancy they are. So how hypnotizable they are. I'm air quoting because I don't really like that term, but I'll try to, do, if I can stick their fingers together, then I'll know that I can take I keep saying trancy, but the deeper approach, of where I'm kind of guiding them into an experience. If I'm doing a, you know, finger test, you know, finger stick, and their fingers just go apart and they just kind of shrug and go, then I'll take something, you know, more of a conversational or NLP approach. So I think what makes me unique is many people will just sort of, they just sort of do it one way or another, you know, they just take one certain approach. And some people are so, you know, evolved in the latest and greatest things with hypnosis that, like, there are people who want that traditional approach and they just don't want to do that because they think this is better, you know? And yeah, so I see Scott nodding his head that but if I was to say what really made me unique is that I bring my experience as an advanced yoga teacher into it. And so it's the ethical practice of yoga, which is essentially just turning inward and being present and not attaching to outcomes, that sort of thing. You know, yogis are really hard to rile up. And so I'll introduce those concepts, and then I'll use, you know, my persuasive skills to help them land.
Nice.
And I have a general response if somebody says, you know, can you help me lose 5 pounds? You know, can you hypnotize me to lose 5 pounds? You know what I'll say, I can hypnotize you to not care if you lose 5 pounds, you know. And that is kind of my approach. I try to move people to the middle, to a place where they just might think, like, why was I so worked up about that?
Nice. So what's the cross? I mean, what's the HypnoYogi all about? What's the cross between hypnosis and yoga?
Did you say the cross?
Yes, the crossover.
Oh, okay. So one of the more interesting things is that, like, the language of the yoga language, you know, like in, you know, a yoga class is actually very hypnotic. You know, so just as an example, you know, like, you know, we might say, okay, have a seat or sit down. You know, that's how, like, that's how it's normally said. Let's say a normal person would say it, right? And a yoga teacher would say it in yoga language. It would, because you lead with the body, you would say, you know, bring your hips to the chair, place the bend in your knees, and bring your backside to the chair. Oh, and then it's kind of that thing. Like, if somebody, like, what was that? Oh, sit down. It's kind of those little trancy moments where a person will say, ah, and they'll do that, you know, and as we know, that's like kind of catching trance, you know. And when they have these little, like, ah, kind of moments where they, oh, I get that, that's neat, and then they'll, you know, sit down, right? So then that alone is kind of hypnotic, right? And so if you think of a yogi, and a yogi is just somebody who does yoga. It's not even necessarily a spiritual practice. It's a practice of looking in and then saying, like, what am I bringing to this thing that bothers me? You know, somebody who is really yogied up, so as I like to say, you know, they will be able to know that, like, if someone doesn't like them, or they won't worry about what someone thinks about them, because that's none of their business. And then they will realize that, like, the things that I don't like about that person is what I see myself in that person. And that is another introspection. You know what I mean? And so when you're turning in on things and not turning out, then that creates more of more of a path to figuring things out about yourself or being okay with something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. But Matt, I got a question for you. So, how did you get all this? When did you find out that, hey, you know what? I'm really going to be able to help people in these ways. What was your big aha moment when you decided, hey, this is where I want to go. This is who I am.
Well, I was a personal trainer, and I was working with a lot of people who essentially had body image issues, whether it was full-on body dysmorphia, where, they believe they look, they come across as one way when they don't, that type of thing. And, I had my strategies to try to help them overcome that. But like when I learned yoga, became a yoga teacher, I had different things to offer in terms of, for lack of a better term, I had better words to say to them. So I had words that would help them to look in and see that what they're thinking they're seeing, other people are not seeing, if that makes sense. So from there, I was listening to a podcast, and there was a guest on the podcast who was talking about hypnosis and Ericksonian hypnosis and how that is conversational. And when he was talking about conversational hypnosis and talking about specific language patterns, I realized, like, oh, I know those patterns. My dad was a car dealer. He was a Cadillac Olds and Toyota dealer. I grew up listening to him talk like that. I sold cars in high school, so I was taught to talk like that. And so, like, what's called like an either or close in sales is a double bind in NLP, or conversational hypnosis, which is like, would you take this in red or green? And so that made me think, like, I need to find out why I know this, so I need to study it. And then when I studied it, I was able to bring the kind of the wisdom of not projecting, not attaching, that's in yoga, to my clients. And then I just became more interested in, this subconscious thing, the hypnosis. I can help people more by, with the problems that they're coming to me for. They say it's about they need to gain, or they need to lose 20 or 30 pounds, but it's really they need to learn how to to accept themselves. It's stress and confidence.
Nice.
People think getting in shape is going to solve everything, and it solves nothing other than you feel better, and you're in less pain, more mobile, that it solves those problems. But the inner stuff, it not so much. It can even create more.
Nice. Well, it sounds to me like long before you even took yoga or hypnosis or any of that, you learned the basic grounding of influence through your car business.
Yeah, and I had no idea. I had, there's that saying, you don't know what you don't know, and through that I discovered that there's another saying, you don't know what you already know. And that can be really powerful. It can be really powerful for a person to, like, oh, I know how to do this. And then when they, begin to study something, when I studied it, formally, I had this stream of experience and knowledge, and then this other stream that I was studying. Oh, they're the same. And then they became a river.
Nice.
And it's, everybody knows something and they have no idea that they already know it. They have no idea how good they are at something or potentially, because they're thinking in a different way.
Right. And then it becomes even more empowering because once you know, you can't not know anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't uncook the carrot, right?
Nice. Nice. So let me ask you another question here. So you've mentioned your dad. Who are your mentors? The people that have influenced you and helped make you who you are today?
Um, geez. If I were to, geez, that's a hard one. It sounds cliche, but my mom and dad, of course. My dad was a big, strong, athletic guy, and it's so interesting. Most of my life I thought that any grit I had, and he was a guy who, um, came up from nothing, without an education, and got into the car business and became very, very, very successful. And then so I always thought, like my any grit I had came from him, right? Um, but that's not the case. It came from my mom, because my mom would just full stop, would not take any crap from anyone, or my dad was persuasive. He would kind of roll with it a little bit. You know what I mean? He was gritty too, but I'm just saying, like, any of that probably came from my mom. And what I learned from my dad was, um, he literally went anywhere he wanted, and because he he could own the room, so to speak. He could look like he's in charge. Like I like if we would go to a restaurant or something, and he didn't want to go through because there's a long line out back, kind of in the front. He'd say, "Oh, let's go through the kitchen," and I would like, "Dad, we can't do that." I go, and he would just walk through the kitchen, like, and nobody would ever look at him like, "Hey, man," they would be like, "Oh, this guy's important," because he just. And man, when I was a really little kid, we, we were at a horse racing thing, quarter horses, and he said, "Let's go look at the horses." And I'll never forget. It said, no admittance, or I knew I knew we didn't belong there. You know what I mean? And I'm like in fourth grade or fifth grade maybe, and I was like, I don't know. He goes, "No, let's go look at the horses." And he's walking along, and then it was a small community somewhere in Kansas. People didn't recognize him, but they just, like, oh, they nodded at him and everything. And he just walked like he owned the place. So I learned that, not to make this into a big, there's more to the story, but um, I learned that a person could actually do that,
Yes.
essentially. So to wrap that up, like, I learned that you know, if the maitre d' or the hostess says, not for another 40 minutes, that, I can, this doesn't necessarily mean that's true, or I could just go sit down or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't work all the time, but like, you'd be surprised.
So you got a little bit of rebel in you then, though, huh?
I didn't think of it as rebel. I always just thought of it as being persuasive, but I guess you're right.
Yeah, well, I get it. I mean, I understand the sign says don't go, but signs don't necessarily mean what they say all the time, right?
I put it to use. I put it to use in HypnoThoughts. I got there early, and the union has their big, so if you ever go there early, the UAW has a big conference. And I walked upstairs to find out, where my room was, as I was going to present, but obviously, it was the other conference was going on. And man, I could really use some coffee. And there was coffee there. So I just walked up and I just became my dad. And then, and I went into their breakfast and I thought, no, I'm not gonna do that. So the bacon looked really good. And I thought, I want a piece of that bacon. No, I'm not doing that. That's one thing. I'll draw the line at something I have to chew.
Sounds like the Wedding Crashers movie.
Oh, yeah, I
I
didn't
was
think
thinking the same thing. That's why I should be laughing.
like it. I did. If you walk up and you're just like, oh, I'm looking around like, hey, I don't know if I can do this. People might say, "Are you at the conference?" But I just became my dad and just walk up. And
So that said, are you more of your dad or are you more of your mom?
Probably more my dad, I guess. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. My mom's way tougher than I am.
Nice. Nice. Okay, so what are the accomplishment? What accomplishment are you most proud of?
Hmm. Well, in this work that we do, the hypnosis, change work, um, and within that, and like personal training, and even being a yoga teacher, um, any time where like I've heard like something like you changed my life, or I I do this now because of you, or I think this way now because of you. Any of those times. And if I was to pick one specific time, I would say we have we had a foster kid for about 4 or 5 years, and she chose to call me dad, and so that really felt like it felt like an accomplishment. So
Nice.
yeah.
Beautiful. Scott, I'm hogging the whole show. Come on, Scott, bring your question.
So, where do you see yourself 10 years from now? What do you hope to have already accomplished when you look back?
Hmm. I would, I truly love being a hypnotist. I truly love the work. Um, I truly love working with people. So I would like to look back and just be able to say like, like I've worked with, but I've done that 1,000 times. If someone says I need help with, biting my nails, I've been doing this for. Here's the long and short of it. I don't ever want to stop seeing people. I'm not one of the hypnotists who, wants to move to a different model of like just having courses and everything and then not seeing people. I want to stay in it as long as I possibly can. And I want to I want to be able to look back and I see myself looking back and being proud of my work and being in a place where I'm mentoring. I want to mentor where people will seek my advice on something hypnosis wise, and not based on like my online presence, but like what they've heard about me. If that
Awesome.
makes sense. Yeah.
Nice.
Do you see yourself in the future writing books, making those courses that you talk about? Others?
Yeah, I just I just wrote 3 eBooks actually.
Nice.
And I would like to write more. I would like to do courses on, setting boundaries, trauma-informed language in the the hypnosis world, I think is something you could really benefit from. So I would like to pursue, courses on that, and empowerment. The thing is like when I was in sales as a kid, and I've sold everything. I've sold vacuum cleaners door to door. And I tell you, if and this was the 80s and 90s. So if the Catholics are right and there's purgatory, I'm good there for 800 years because of all of the high pressure sales that I did, that I didn't know better. I didn't know that it was not so great, but I told so many white lies in sales of this is one more and I get my bonus and that type of thing, right? But that's how they were trained back then. But the whole time I was just seeing like, it doesn't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be, just beating on people with throwing language at them and quick talk and things like that. And then I thought like, there should be a book on how to use sales techniques to just, to get along better with people. So essentially for like ethical persuasion. So I would love to, write a book or do something on ethical persuasion.
Nice.
And something that, kind of a counter thing to something the pickup artist community might put out.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
Interesting. You're a man of my own heart. I'm right there. My book is right in that area. So
what is it?
yes. What's that?
What's the name of your book?
Beyond Sales, the Neuroscience of Advanced Communication.
Oh man, were you selling that at the conference?
Yes.
Jeez, I wish I would have bought that.
It's on Amazon. Anyway,
I'm gonna buy it.
We're not on my
awesome.
highway.
It's a really
We're on
great
your
book.
highway today. We're on your highway today.
Oh.
So you mentioned that the kid and stuff like that. So how has your business affected your family life?
Well, I don't know. That's a good question. I would say, like when we had our foster kid, I was just beginning to learn, these things, so I felt great about, teaching her certain things and, like, you can't really tell when someone's lying, you know what I mean? They say there's like, but really it could just, all that measures is how nervous a person is, and a person could just be nervous, but I had a better way of explaining how to trust yourself, like when something doesn't feel right, so there's that. And then the looking inward, from learning that in yoga to using, hypnosis on myself, or, saying this sort of persuasive language things to me as I'm looking inward, if that makes sense. The whole thing is just helped me like see things like, it's made me so much more empathetic, and it's like that saying, it's never about the toilet seat. And it's just, it's my business has taught me to pause before I speak. And going to conference, the Hypno Thoughts conference has become a vacation for us. And my wife has made a lot of friends, hypnotist friends, and it's just been fun.
So is
I
she a
have lots.
hypnotist? Is she a hypnotist too?
See, that's just it. She doesn't realize that's what she's doing, but like, so she's a retired middle school principal, and when she tells me like how she gets, like, if she's investigating a school crime, and it's either like detective or it's conversational hypnotist, but like she'll say something, and I'm so sorry I can't think of the specific thing, but I've said this many times. Like, she was telling me, and I'll look and I'll be like, did you do that on purpose? Like, yeah. And then I would ask why, thinking like, did you read that? Did someone teach you that? And she would give a reason, but it would be not the academic reason, so to speak. Like the double bind. I've heard her like say, you know, well, I just asked them, are you going to tell me? Do you think you think you're going to tell me now, or do you going to think you're going to tell me when your mom's here? That type of thing. Right. And I was just like, wow, are you, and she's like, no, I just know he's going to tell me then. That kind of thing.
Nice.
So I don't know if she's picked it up from me, or it's just, her own, who knows?
So are you
But
under her trance?
what?
I said, are you under her trance?
Yes. Yeah. I married very well.
Nice. Scott,
And if I'm not, I
questions?
put myself there.
That's right. Scott, any other questions?
Sure. So when you say you see clients, do you have a special place that you go, like an office that you have, or do you go to where they are?
I see them on Zoom.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And I think, seeing them on Zoom just takes a lot of natural resistance out. Like, that there's or hurdles, or resistance, I guess, of like getting to an office, so to speak. Being in an office, the change of being anchored to that, to my place, or like even like, going to somebody's house. Like before COVID, I used to just go to someone's house, but which I was very comfortable in, from being in-home sales, but the thing is like, there's the deal with somebody is sitting in their house, right? And let's say it needs to end quickly or something, and then do you know what I mean? So when you're on Zoom, so it has to end quickly, in an office, the person might have to just get up and leave, but they're uncomfortable doing that because they think it's rude, right? And if the person wants to, if it needs to end, and I'm in their home, it that old saying, let's leave so these people can go to bed. You know what I mean? Have you ever heard that? And my uncle used to say, let's go to bed so these people can leave. I know, isn't that funny?
Nice.
But like,
so how do our viewers get a hold of you then, if they want to see you on Zoom or something like that?
through my website, my booking link. I'm the Hypnotic Yogi on TikTok, and my website is Matt Dickson Dickson hypnosis.com.
Nice. Go ahead. I did you have anything else you want to add, Matt?
Just that I appreciate you having me on, and I can't wait to buy your book.
We appreciate you. We really appreciate you. It's great having you here. Scott, do you have anything you want to add?
I see the correlation between the yogi and the hypnotist a little bit more clearly now.
Oh,
so
good.
even as a yogi, you start with yes sets and compliance sets, and then you use confusion to even put them more into the trance state by using a different language pattern than you normally would. So it seems to me these yogis have been doing it forever.
Can I share something?
Please do.
Sure, absolutely.
I thought that like, I thought that I was gonna teach like, hypnotic language or hypnosis to yoga teachers originally, because I was making the correlation, the dip to it. And then I realized that like they're already hypnotic enough, So if you like you go to a yoga class and you center, and centering is essentially like an induction. It starts that way. People are either on their back or they're like seated up, but you start with begin to close your eyes whenever you're ready and breathe deep down into your belly, and then feel the breath make its path from the tip of your nose down into your belly. Soften what's not needed. Use only the muscle energy that's needed to support you. If you're on your back body, allow your belly to be the only thing that moves, and that's essentially like an induction,
Totally.
And then Shavasana, which is the end of class. Shavasana is Sanskrit for corpse pose. And it's called corpse pose, not because you're supposed to be dead, but it is the ultimate in surrender. You're surrendering to rest and digest. And it's a practice of surrendering your allowing yourself to become vulnerable in a safe way. So nothing is more vulnerable than laying on your back with your eyes closed, if you think of it that way, right? And so Shavasana is just quiet for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then when you bring them out, you just make a little noise, like you rub your hands together, or you can ding something, or you can just start talking. And it's just kind of like, return your awareness to your space, introduce some movement to your body through your fingers and toes. On your next exhale, roll to your favorite side. Then in a way that's easy and gentle, find your way to a seated position facing the front. And then, namaste, and everybody gets up and leaves. So that's just like bringing them out of hypnosis. And what I learned was, as I was going through hypnosis training, there's a belief that you count them out, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and you snap your fingers, like, and they're in a very suggestible state, and be careful what you say to them, because you could ruin their entire day. You know what I mean? And I see the logic of that, but I can tell you hundreds of yoga classes that I've taught where people roll out of Shavasana, they're trancy. I mean, they're tranced out, and they just shuffle out and they're fine. It's not that's I don't believe that's a dangerous, potentially dangerous thing. I don't think does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Many people are in trance when they're driving.
Yeah,
exactly. So, yeah. But hypnotists need yoga, and that's my point, because hypnotists are wound up. There's certain things in yoga that you can do, like, that bring stress down in the moment, that you don't have to go somewhere to do, like, and that they don't. It doesn't attract attention to yourself. Like, we all know tapping, right? But if a person is sitting like in a meeting and they're getting ready to speak, and they feel, like, a panic attack coming on, they're already self-conscious. They don't want to sit there and, just because I feel this anxiety, I still deeply love and respect they don't want to, and so, but what you can do is you can close your right nostril discreetly and breathe through your left. Exhale a little longer than you inhale, and that'll bring your nervous system down. And you can hum, and humming doesn't even have to be loud enough for anyone else to hear it. You can just hum, hum on your exhale and a little longer than you inhale, and then that'll bring it down to something manageable. It shocks me how little that's known in the hypnosis world. There's just those type of things, you know.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I got a big question for you.
Yeah.
The big question, Matt. What are your words of wisdom for our viewers?
Oh, dang it. Trade either or for both and. Yeah. Think of a slinky, you know, and the compressed, if you open the slinky too fast, you know, it just wobbles out like this. Allow yourself to be in the middle like a slinky. So this is both and, not either or. And if you think in a binary way, if you think, you know, if you only give yourself two choices, which is this or that, at the very least, if you give yourself a third choice, which is, you know, maybe, that'll give you one more choice. So the quickest way to limit yourself is to limit your thinking. The quickest way to limit your thinking is to limit the way you speak, and the quickest way to limit the way you speak is to speak in absolutes of either or.
Awesome. Great stuff. Scott, anything else?
Thank you so much for spending time with us and
Thanks.
being here with us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. It was a great time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's our pleasure. It was great traveling down your magical psyche highway. We certainly enjoyed it. And for our viewers out there, we're glad that you were here too. We hope you've enjoyed the ride. We certainly have. If you like us, give us the thumbs up. Please subscribe. If you think we're assholes, we don't care. Just give us a thumbs down. We're just glad you're here. Please share it with your friends, and we hope to see you next week. Thanks for coming.
Wow, what a trip. Thanks for taking that journey with us today. Please like us, share us, and enlighten us with your views of the topics we drove into today. We appreciate you and love reading your comments. Thanks again, and we hope to see you back on the bus next week. That's right.